Yes,
for example, which has had to be nationalised at a cost of, what,
yes,
4 billion
you have to
euros
appreciate
or more?
he's independent in his investigation, and I'm not going to say anything that will in any way undermine that investigation.
Well, I'm not asking you to undermine his investigation, but for example, the chairman of Anglo-Irish Bank, Sean Fitzpatrick, he sits there, he's drawing, as I understand it, more than €500,000 a year in the pension from a bank which is now being supported and indeed has been nationalised by the Irish taxpayer.
There is an independent investigation there. And I am not going to undermine that in any way. That investigation is going ahead, and resources have been made available to the Director of Corporate Enforcement and the Gardaí who will be carrying out a fraud, carrying out a fraud investigation.
You're absolutely right. There are legal issues involved. But I'm asking you a basic cultural question. Would you accept that the Irish public believes that for far too long, Irish politicians, the top of Irish business, particularly the financial institutions and the property developers, have all been far too cosy with each other, and that was one of the reasons why Ireland faced the massive problems it faced over the last 2 years?
I said at an Ardesh, which is my political opportunity to the people that we represent as members of the party, that there was huge exuberance in this economy.
Hang on, what does that mean, exuberance?
Exuberance on the basis that it was not just at the top, that everyone was involved in an exuberance of spend, of taking out loans, etc., etc.
But what about corrupt practices? What about deception of the public? Do you accept that there has also been wrongdoing? Never mind exuberance,
that's why it's being investigated. That is why we did all of the changes that we have introduced. Corporate governance changes, for example, regulatory reform and regulation. That is, we have, as you know, a new regulator appointed, a new governor of the central bank. We've introduced huge amounts of legislation to deal specifically with those wrongdoings.
The opposition has demanded a full, independent and transparent inquiry into the financial meltdown and the property crash. And you have denied it repeatedly in your government.
You cannot have an inquiry unless you have a scoping opportunity first. We are scoping out the basis on which the terms of reference will be set down for this inquiry.
Well, there's going to be a 6-month panel, as I understand it. It's going to be conducted behind closed doors.
There's no more transparency.
Why is it behind closed doors?
There's no more transparency than these issues being spoken about on the floor of the Houses of the Oireachtas.
Well, I'm interested to match your words against those of Bertie Ahern, who spoke to this programme about 4 months ago, and I asked him whether he would now acknowledge that he and his government and the government which you belong to made some fundamental mistakes, going back, 4 or 5 years when the OECD, the IMF and others were ringing alarm bells and saying your property market's overheating, you're becoming uncompetitive in the global marketplace, you've got to take some serious action, and the government didn't. Would you now accept, unlike Mr. Ahern, who refused to really accept this with me, that your government did make some fundamental mistakes?
I think what is important to say is that this government, when we did have the economic wherewithal, invested it well in education, in health, in skills, in research. We invested in the Pension Reserve Fund, which has now been to our benefit to allow us to deal with some of the issues that we have had. We also supported people who are vulnerable in society, and as I'm a member of the Fianna Fáil party, where we look towards the vulnerable people in society being supported. We've also
you're cutting the benefits.
But we are still very much on the basis of deflation. The reduction of the income to those who have found themselves unemployed is much less than would have been heretofore. But I think it's also important to say we also invest, for example, in third world aid. Are we to say that the things that we did, the decisions that we made, the infrastructure that is now of benefit to us in this country was not the right thing to do? I have to say I agree with Bertie Ahern on what he had to say.
You see, I just wonder whether that tone and frankly the lack of repentance is going to wash with the Irish public.
Well, look, everyone agrees that one of the most difficult things that you can have happen to you is to lose your job. No one disagrees from that. I was a Minister for Social Welfare. I was very much involved in supporting people who are in poverty and who find themselves in very vulnerable positions. No one is taking from that. This government is not. No one else is, in my view, that is elected in this country. But we have to give hope and structure to what we can do. And I am very much of the view that the job strategy that we have, the creation of new jobs, for example, in green enterprise, new work within the financial services sector, where the growth, Where are the growth opportunities for the Irish public? The growth opportunities are going to be in medical devices, biopharma. They're going to be in green enterprise. That's where strategically I have said these are the areas in which we will invest.
But your own boss said that, frankly, he was looking to about 2016. He painted this vision of the 100th anniversary of the Easter Rising in 2016 as being the time when leaders like himself could look up and say, we did not fail our children, we did not fail our country, and that at that point Ireland would be in a real recovery. But that's 6 years away. Is your message to the Irish people that they've got to wait 6 years to feel good about themselves?
No,
again?
and I don't, and I wouldn't take that from the Irish people, because we do feel good about ourselves, and especially in comparison.
Well, a lot of Irish people don't feel too good about their country right now.
I would have to say that in comparison to others who are much less well off in the world, we are doing relatively well. If you take what has happened in some of the poorest countries in the world, if we were to compare ourselves, I think the Irish psyche is such that we have never lost the compassion that we've had for others.
A final thought. For the first time in 15 or more years, there is net emigration from Ireland. Once again, we see Irish people leaving this country looking for work.
Well, you have both things.
How long is that going to last?
You have two things happening. We have had in the 80s, we had about 1 million people working. 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, over 2.1 million people working. We have 1.8 million still working in this country. We did have a lot of people who came from the new member states to come here. Many of them have returned home because the employment opportunities have not been afforded to them. Equally, we have a lot of people, young people, who have decided that they will go to other parts of the world to gain experience. And I think the type of immigration
But your government was supposed to have ended that whole cycle of Irish having to leave Ireland.
The type of people that have left have gone on the basis that some of them fine, they want to enjoy themselves, that's what young people are entitled to do. But moreover, they are coming with a different talent. They are coming with degrees, PhDs, they are people who have a greater acumen academically and who have found work in other parts of the world. And that's not a bad thing, because equally we still continue to have very many people who are working here from other member states, from the UK, from Northern Ireland.
Mary Coughlan, thank you very much for being on Hardtalk.
Thank you very much.